Am I the a-hole for exposing my cousin's creepy husband to my entire family? I, 22, female, met my cousin's husband, 24 female and 26 male, last July for their wedding. They live several states away, so in addition to meeting him for the first time, it was also the first time I had seen my cousin in a few years. I instantly got a bad vibe from him, and he made several comments that rubbed me the wrong way. He told me I seemed like a wild child and said he would bet I'm a bad girl at my college. Since meeting him, he has followed me on Instagram and sporadically sends me reels, which I don't open, and comments odd things on my posts like, "Looking good, cousin." He even DM'd me once, "Hey, I'll be in your state this weekend on business, lol," which I never opened either. All of this definitely creeped me out, but I don't feel like I could say anything about it because my cousin and I aren't close, and I've always felt like she looks down on me because she is a devout Christian and I'm not. Fast forward to this week, one of those fake accounts on Instagram popped up with some of my pictures asking for money for private pictures. The bio was in broken English. The pictures were poorly cropped screenshots of my two most recent posts, and the Cash App was a random string of numbers and letters. The account just looked very fake, and many of my friends sent it to me and reported the account. Of course, the one person who apparently fell for it was my cousin's husband. I then got a very long, nasty DM from my cousin telling me she had been very tolerant of my sinful lifestyle, whatever that means. But this time, it had gone too far. She said she didn't care that we were family, and so long as I was posting a threat to her marriage, I was no longer welcome in their lives. I calmly and politely responded that this account was not me, and that I had already reported the account to Instagram to be taken down, but I apologized for the apparent disruption to her day. She responded that she didn't believe me and said she pities me for having such low self-esteem and would keep me in her prayers. I lost it at this point. I called her stupid for falling for an account that was so obviously fake and said that her husband was such a blatant creep. It was embarrassing she even married him. I sent screenshots of the months of DMs from him that I never responded to and concluded by saying, "If your marriage is so easily threatened, get a divorce. Don't take your insecurities out on me." Shortly after, I got angry phone calls from my mom and my grandma saying my cousin made an honest mistake and that my response was cruel and unjustified. Apparently, my cousin showed everyone our messages and is humiliated by what I said. My mom is worried our relationship with that side of the family is permanently damaged, and now I may not be welcome at future family gatherings because my grandmama doesn't want the drama. I really don't feel like my response was out of line, but since no one else agrees with me, I'm not sure. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. And no one is saying anything about how the husband tried to get pictures of you or tried to hit you up. Not the a-hole and good riddance. I had a feeling he only told my cousin because he tried to Cash App the account and got nothing. Could be wrong though. Just say something like, "Her husband has been harassing me for months." I didn't tell anyone except her. She's the one spreading it around. I'm disappointed but not exactly surprised that he fell for an internet scam trying to get private photos of me. If she doesn't want to be humiliated, she should tell her husband to stop humiliating her. I will also welcome an apology from them anytime. Anyone who asks me to apologize to her condones his inappropriate behavior and will no longer have a relationship with me. Thanks. But he can't possibly be at fault or in the wrong because he is an honest, devout Christian man. He just succumbed to the evil temptations of women. But he is sorry and he asked for forgiveness, and that makes everything he did completely okay and justifiable. Now, that little harlot of an OP, she dared to have social media accounts that were scammed. See? She's the real sinful nasty one in this scenario, because she must be casting a temptation spell over her poor cousin's husband's eyes. And that is literally the mentality behind a cousin and her husband sort of thinking. Not the a-hole. Your cousin started the drama by being gullible and dumb, and was a total a-hole to you. She deserves to be called on it, and she will be much better off knowing what her husband is. Then she shared that her husband is a thirsty hornball and says that she's embarrassed. I hope he kept it between the two of them. Cousin embarrassed herself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to buy my fiancé a gaming laptop for a few grand after he told me to find a real job? My fiancé, male 37, and I, female 30, have started living together 6 months ago. I own a house and he moved in with me. I run online business from home which allows me to live rather comfortably. A month after moving in, He quit his job saying how much he hated it, and that is going to try and do Twitch streaming for a living. I'm all for following your passion, so I was supportive, although surprised at the turn of events. I'm in financial position to support us both, but it felt off. Anyway, nothing happened with his Twitch channel. Sure, he's gaming all day, but hasn't bothered to even try and create an account. He just games for pleasure. It's been 7 months. I've had conversations with him suggesting he finds work, but he keeps telling me that I'm unsupportive and he needs time. He wanted us to buy a bigger house together, but I said that I'm fine with my current one, and that since he doesn't have a job, I don't want to get a mortgage and be left with paying everything. And he told me that if I found a real job, maybe I wouldn't have financial problems. We had a massive argument that night. Now, he's been hinting at needing a new gaming laptop which costs a few grand, and I've been ignoring it, so he asked outright for me to buy it for his birthday. I told him no, that my fake job doesn't cover new laptops, and he got really angry with me, telling me I'm selfish and ruining his career. Granted, I can afford it to buy it, but he really hurt me saying my business is not a real job despite me working myself off. Am I the a-hole for not buying him new laptop? You sound intelligent. Is the D that good for all that BS? Not the a-hole. Yeah, I was wondering what he brings to the relationship other than entitlement and laziness. OP not the a-hole. He's taking advantage of you. Yeah, somehow running an online business that provides for the both of them isn't a real job, but starting a gaming career when you're pushing 40 is totally viable. Not the a-hole, but curious as to why you are referring to him as your fiancé and not your ex. It felt off because it is. He showed you exactly who he is. Please believe him and move on. And instead of him worrying about what's in your pockets, he needs to be worried about the fact that nothing is in his. A partner makes deposits, not constant withdrawals. Cut the cord. Not the a-hole. Wow. So he saw you make money with your own business and decided you can be his sugar mama while he follows his dream of being a professional gamer. Yeah, you know what? No. You have a real job. He has no job. And now he's going through some early midlife crisis trying to be some edgy famous gamer. Sorry, but he sounds like he's 19. He'll be 40 soon. He needs a real job, not you. He's not even trying to be a professional gamer. If he doesn't have a streaming account, all he's doing is just gaming. He's being a professional slob. He's being a leech is what he's being. Why do smart women buy this crap? I'll never understand. Pull your weight or GTFO. I'm not your mother/ATM. Sunk costs. They're engaged and sounds like they were before he moved in. Even smart people get taken advantage of, and many people get stuck on fixing things that can't be fixed because they're so far into it and don't want to throw it away, failing to see the other person already has. I'm selfish and ruining his career. LMAO. What career? Not the a-hole. I'm a straight woman, but can I be your new boyfriend? You sound like you're carrying all the weight here, and instead of being happy for you, or even feeling lucky and grateful for being able to just fool around for 7 months and have zero consequences, this dude has become spoiled. Does he do chores around the house at least, or show some form of appreciation? Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for wanting to go somewhere while my wife is almost due? Now, I fully understand how the title sounds, and I've seen posts like this from the wife's point of view, but please hear me out. My wife is really close to giving birth, and we are both super excited to welcome our baby girl into this world. However, the issue is the fact that my 92-year-old grandfather is sick and will most likely pass on in the next week or so. He has been one of the kindest, best, and coolest people I've known, and he had a huge hand in raising me, so I want to fly over there in a couple of days to say goodbye and attend his funeral. My wife feels that this isn't as important than seeing the birth of my daughter should she go into labor while I'm gone. And while I know that the birth is extremely important, but I really want to say goodbye, and this can't wait. So am I the a-hole? Edit. Some of you ask when she's due, and that isn't for around 2 weeks. What I'm thinking of doing now is to take the car this evening. It's a 5-hour drive. Say goodbye tomorrow and come home in the afternoon. I will Zoom for the funeral. Sorry, but you're the a-hole. I empathize with your situation. I just lost my grandmother and I have also given birth. Your wife needs you for support. It's not about watching the baby being born. It's about being there for your wife during a potentially deadly medical event. Given how wonderful your grandfather is, I'm sure he would understand. This she'll push a tiny human out of her. Seem like is the first on top of that. She'll be terrified, in pain, and will want a person she can trust deeply while facing a long, painful, and potentially deadly labor. I get why it's important to you, but if your grandfather is a kind person, I think he would call you mad to even think to let your wife alone. You should video call him and ask him how he feel about that and what he want. You're not the a-hole, but neither is your wife. Try to put yourself in her shoes. How would you feel if the situation was reversed? It's not an easy choice. I'm really sad that you're put in this situation, but for me, your wife should always come first. Even more when it's about the birth of your baby girl. Good luck, Opie. Sincerely. No a-holes here. Don't wait a couple of days. Fly there now. Visit him while he's still well enough to recognize you and fly right home. Don't stay for the funeral. Life is more important than death. You've got a baby coming. People will understand. And those that won't aren't worth your time. That's what I plan to do. Thanks. You need a contingency plan. Babies do come early. Baby could come now and would actually not be considered early at all. Your wife has non-zero chance of serious complications, trauma, and even death during delivery, as does your child. If she goes into labor while you are there, what is the plan for you to safely get back? No, driving as quickly as you think you safely can to 5 hours back is not a great choice. You being in a hospital after a car accident also means not being there. I do think seeing your grandfather is important, but you need to know exactly what to do if things go sideways ahead of time. And your wife needs the reassurance of what the plan is as well. I was gonna say, if the due date is 2 weeks away, then that could happen any day now, really. Know a few babies who popped up early. I feel for you, Opie. It's a hard situation, but I don't think you'd forgive yourself if something went wrong with the wife either. Update 1. Hi guys. Thanks for the support on this post. You are all right. My wife is the most important person. I took today off and started driving to my grandfather's town around 2.5 hours ago. My wife is at home with my sister-in-law and mother-in-law, and my brother-in-law and her best friend live 5 minutes away from her, so she's fine. She was really happy about this compromise and gave me her go-ahead since she knows how close I was to my grandpa. I'm at a rest stop for lunch right now, and the plan is to get there around 5 in the evening, talk to my grandfather and say goodbye to him, then drive back home and be there around 12 a.m. I was actually speaking to my wife and mother-in-law, and they said it would be really nice if my grandfather picked out my daughter's name as a sort of connection to him for her after he passes on. Thanks. Update 2. I talked to my grandfather. It was super emotional to say the least, but it seemed like he really enjoyed it, as did I. I asked him about naming my daughter, and though he refused and said it wasn't his place at first, he eventually gave us our baby girl's name, Madeline Rose, after my grandma and great-grandma respectively. I'm going back home now, but it seems like my grandpa's going to go pretty soon. I'm glad I got to say goodbye at least. Thanks. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling an intern at my husband's work a little boy? My 32 female husband, 38 male, is high enough in the company that he works at that he has his own secretary and staff. It is common for me to show up at the office to drop stuff off or go get lunch with him. Recently, I have noticed a new intern, Jack. 22 male? I personally don't think he likes me, but that didn't bother me until today. I went to go drop off some papers for my husband today. It was supposed to be a quick in and out. I have his schedule, so I knew he wasn't in a meeting or anything. In fact, it was his hour lunch break. So I go up the secretary desk and Jack is sitting there. No big deal. I bet he was being trained or just covering for today. I tell him I have some papers to drop off that he left at home. Jack looks at me and says he can take them. I tell him I have to give them to my husband personally since they are important. He tells me no. I give him a look and says it's his lunch break. He is not busy. Jack then tells me to sit down, girl. I was shocked and asked what he said. Same thing. Sit down, girl. My temper is thin at this point, and I called him a little boy that thinks he has power since he is sitting at the front desk when he isn't even a full-time employee. He looked shocked and got all red. And then go in the back, knock on the office door, and there is my husband doing nothing. I leave and Jack wasn't looking at me. I told this story to my friend and she told me he was just doing his job and I was a jerk. So, am I the a-hole? I don't want to bring it up to my husband. He can get protective at times. Info. Your wording suggests, but I want to confirm. You told the intern you are married to your husband, right? And or does the intern know that you are married with your husband and are not a stranger? Separately, is this office setting especially secure, like defense work or other civil service requiring confidentiality/security? I said that I am dropping off paperwork for my husband. Husband and I have been to the office enough time that his staff knows who I am. The security is strict, but I have a pass that allows me to get to my husband's office. It even says family member pass on it. Not day home. The intern had the audacity to tell his boss's wife to sit down, girl. He shouldn't have said that to anyone, let alone you. But you being his boss's wife just makes it way worse. You should absolutely tell your husband. If the kid gets fired, it is 100% his own fault. I don't think it does make it worse. Opie isn't any more important than anyone else, though clearly she thinks she is. But not the a-hole because he shouldn't be addressing anyone like that. I don't think it makes it worse from a morality or being a decent person standpoint. But it's definitely worse for him, if all he was worried about was his job security. Don't call your boss's wife a girl in a dismissive tone if you want to avoid getting fired. Don't call any adult woman a girl, especially in a dismissive tone, if you want to avoid being an a-hole. Not the a-hole. I am often flabbergasted at friends' crazy reactions when stories like this pop up. This kid was not just doing his job. He was being rude and condescending and is likely misogynistic. Who refers to anyone as girl? I check in with your husband, Opie, but I think you handled it perfectly. Not only was he rude and condescending, he was asking for papers that he is not allowed to handle, which is literally failing at his job. He deserves to be formally reprimanded. So lovely of Opie's friends, who don't know anything about this person's job, to assume that he was being competent while Opie was being unreasonable.